Hey, on the pod today, we have Tim Elmore. He's an author, a leader, a speaker, part of the John Maxwell team. We're going to be talking about diversity, but not just racial diversity, age diversity. We're going to be talking about babies and boomers, how to have them in your church, how to expand your team to not just be one singular age demographic. Welcome to the Mike Santiago Show, presented by Compassion International. Let's get started. I want to take a moment and just highlight Compassion International. They've been a ministry partner for many years, and I'm so grateful to have them as a sponsor of the show. Compassion is an incredible organization. It's all about releasing Jesus to those in poverty in His name. They currently serve over 2 million children and their families in some of the most impoverished areas of the world. And my favorite part is they use local churches to do all of their strategic work. Compassion is all about equipping the local church so that every single child is cared for by leaders in their community. As a pastor, I have found Compassion to be a great strategic partner with our global mission strategy, and as a church, we've incorporated Compassion into our focus on the country of Guatemala. Compassion made it easy for everyone in our church to put their faith in action by caring for a child in need. I would encourage any pastor listening to learn more about Compassion and to equip local churches around the world while seeing your church grow in the process. All you have to do is visit compassion.com/Mike. That's compassion.com/Mike. Compassion.com/Mike today. On today's show, I want to talk a little bit about babies and boomers and how your church and organization should be reaching both. What is the difference between a baby and a boomer? Well, we have young people, we have old people, we have passionate people, we have wise people, we have crazy kids, and we got wise old sages, and we need to reach both. I know that it can be challenging at times to be a diverse church when it comes to age, and our conversation with Tim Elmore will go into even more detail when he talks about age diversity in your organization. But there are a couple things that I have highlighted. I've actually written for a magazine an article called A Church for Babies and Boomers, and here's what we've learned at our church. Our church is incredibly diverse racially, and then also incredibly diverse when it comes to the age demographic. And here's what I know. Babies have the passion, but boomers have the wisdom. When you have young people in your church, they have passion. They'll show up early. They'll stay late. They want to do something. They want to get behind a cause. They want to get behind meaning. They want to go on a trip across the world. They want to do things that no one's ever done. They want to be creative. They're excited. They're passionate. But one of the great things that comes with that passion is that boomers can bring the wisdom. The wise people in your church can say, we've tried that before and it didn't work. Or we did that once and it didn't go that well. Or when you do this, think through this. People that have wisdom are always great to have in your church. A church that's just full of young, passionate people lacks the wisdom that comes from living life for a longer period of time. There is a young person's energy that they're excited and they're at a level 10 ready to go. But then there's the boomers, they have pace. They've learned rhythmically how to go about their day, how to go about their year, how to go about decades. So we have to take the passion that comes from the babies in the church, the excitement that comes from the babies in the church, and not suppress it. We don't squash it. What we do is we say we have passion, but we want to harness it in the wisest direction. This is the most important part. You take the passion from the young people, you take the wisdom from the seasoned people, and when those two things intersect and collide, what you end up with is a church full of young, energetic people, but they're on mission in the wisest way possible. They are on mission with a strategy that can actually do good long term. Young people they're flying by the seat of their pants all the time. They're always trying this way, and they're always kind of like wherever the wind blows is where the young people go. But if you get someone in your corner that is older, wiser, and that has been around, what you'll find is they'll be able to push in the right direction. So babies have passion, but the boomers have wisdom. The second thing that you need to know is that the babies have problems and the boomers have experience. The babies have problems and the boomers have experience. The way that I put it in my notes is that the young people come with drama and the older people just come with history. It's not that older people don't have drama, but they don't have as much drama as they used to when they were younger. They have experience. They have experience in relationships. They have experience in finance. They have experience in parenting. They have experience in marriage. And when you gain that experience, you're able to dilute and diminish the drama. What is youth group? It's drama. What is young adult ministry? It's drama. So what you need to include are some people with experience that can help dilute and diminish the drama. There's one thing that you don't want. You don't want drama. And so in order to not have drama, you have to infuse the young people that are full of drama with the older people who have experience and they got maturity and they know how to handle things and they know how to overcommit, or they don't get into emotional arguments or heated places. And so when you have babies and boomers, you have this great mixture of both problems to be solved, but with experience from the older people. The third thing I put in my notes is that the babies have the vision, but the boomers have the resources. You need older people who have been able to establish themselves generationally. They've been able to generate and create wealth as an individual and as a family so that they can fuel the vision that the babies have, that the young people have. You and I both know this. It's like in the earlier days of your life, you didn't have enough time to generate the wealth needed for the vision that you have. And so it's important that you have spiritual fathers and mothers that come alongside spiritual sons and daughters that fuel the vision for the future. The third thing that I wrote down here in my notes is that the babies have the vision, but the boomers have the resource. How many of you know the older you get, the more time you've had to establish generational wealth and prosperity and be able to fund dreams for other people? That's why God has blessed you. That's why God gives to you. And so it's important that you understand that a lot of the resources that are going to fuel the vision of your church are kept up, are held in the hands of those who have gone before us, those that are older. So you can't just have a church full of young people because you have a church with tons of vision but no resource. So resource is imperative in order for vision. Resource speeds up the vision. So when you have an older demographic, the vision can move faster with the young people who are going to have the energy and passion to do it. If you have just a bunch of young people, you probably don't have much resource. Why? Because they haven't lived long enough to establish a system where resources come in. And that's why I love our church. Our church has got babies that have vision and passion and energy and excitement. And then we have older people who have the same vision and have the same excitement, but they're not just going to do it. They're going to also help fund it, which is the great partnership of the kingdom of God. For more on this, I want to turn to our conversation with Tim Elmore when it comes to age diversity. Let's take a look. Huge shout out to my friends at overflow.co. We know that fundraising is hard. 90% of the United States wealth is tied up in non-cash assets. That means that churches only accepting cash and check donations are missing massive giving potential. Overflow is here to help. Overflow is an online software that empowers donors to give crypto and stock donations, not in months, but in minutes. The average donation to churches and nonprofits is $128, but the average donation through Overflow is $10,000. Your donors want to give stock and crypto because it's the most tax-efficient way to give. Why? Because there's no capital gains tax. So churches can get the full donation and donors can get the full tax deduction. As a result, churches have seen up to 32 times return on their investment with Overflow. Let's unlock unprecedented generosity together. Visit overflow.co/Mike. That's overflow.co/Mike. All right, this entire episode is about age diversity, and I found a question that came across the internet. They said, how do you incorporate new and old music in your church? Probably one of the most ancient problems, struggles, tensions to be wrestled with in the church is how do you diversify the music to accommodate both young people who are listening to different types of music than maybe the older people. What we've discovered is we'd like to keep our platform young, but we can keep the music ancient. This is so important. The lyrics need to be ancient, not the style of the music. So it is okay to have a hymn and it's okay to spin the hymn to your style. But there are some really rich lyrics that were written long before any of us who are watching this were born. And those songs need to remain in the faith, and they need to remain in the house of God. So the style of the songs doesn't have to remain, but the theology in those songs is so rich and so needed that I want my children growing up singing some of the rich theology that was taught through hymns in the days of old. And so what we have to do is this. I keep the stage young, meaning I try to incorporate younger people onto the stage, but they're going to learn and sing and promote at least one or two older songs in the set list. Why? Well, first of all, when it comes to music, it's style, not lyrics that get old. The lyrics never get old. I could bring you some of the most well-written lyrics that were written hundreds of years ago, and if I presented them to you in a different style, they would sound new even though the lyrics were ancient. Another thing to consider is this. If you are after an attractional model, meaning reaching new people for Jesus, if your Sunday morning is evangelistic and you're like, people aren't going to connect with those songs, if they genuinely are new to church, if they're genuinely lost and they haven't been to church, or they've never been to church before, or haven't been to church in a long time, they're not going to know what a new song is versus what an old song is because they've never been to church. And so for you to say those songs are old, they're old to you because you've been in church, but your target audience on a Sunday morning is actually new people, and new people don't know the difference between a new song and an old song. Same is true for video venue. People say, well, people just don't like video venue around here. The seasoned Christians might not like video venue, but that's not who you're after. You're after the lost. And so the lost don't know the difference. We found that people don't even know that churches aren't doing video these days because we reach people who are so pre-Christian or post-Christian that they don't even know the difference. The same is true for music. When it comes to musical style, your style can evolve, but the lyrical content of some of the ancient tunes needs to remain in the church. And so how do you do this? Well, you can keep your stage young and keep your songs current while also including or tossing in an older tune every once in a while. So here's what I would do. I would go to your worship leader, and I'd say, hey, listen, here's what I want. I want at least 2 hymns a month, 3 hymns a month. And you could paint the style however you want, but I want to make sure that we're teaching theology through our music, not just the current trendy songs of the day. Theology cannot depart from the worship set. It's got to stay in it, and you have to. Your way to do that is by incorporating the older songs from the days of old. Hope that helps. I know that digital marketing can be hard. Let's be honest, you're not great at it. It's Christmas time and you need to promote your Christmas services. Let Rocket Media help you. All you have to do is go to TheRocket.Media/church. That's TheRocket.Media/church. They have invited over 25 million people to church using Google Ads alone. They helped us launch our South location that launched with over 400 people in attendance. Trust me, you want to get signed up with them. They're giving away free AirPods when you mention the show after you sign up. TheRocket.Media/church. Hey, welcome back to the Mike Santiago Show, sponsored and powered by Compassion International. I'm here with author and leader Tim Elmore, who just came out with a brand new book called A New Kind of Diversity. If you are a leader watching this, listening to this today, this is going to be so valuable for you because we're not just talking about ethnic diversity or gender diversity. We're also talking about age diversity. So Tim, thank you so much for being on the show. Can you talk to me, what is generational diversity and how can we achieve it in our organizations?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Well, you just mentioned it. We've been talking for years about ethnic diversity, and we need to continue those conversations. Gender diversity, income diversity. I don't know how many kinds of diversity there are that we need to pay attention to. But I started looking around workplaces and seeing an elephant in the room. This looming thing that's out there, but we don't talk about it.
Right.
And it was generational diversity. We got this, newly minted college graduate that's coming in at 21 or 22 years old, and then the 62-year-old that's in charge that's been around for 40 years, and they communicate differently. They value different things sometimes. They believe different things. And so what I often say, and compassionate listeners would certainly understand this, when you travel to another country, you get psyched up to work harder at connecting with people in China or wherever you are, because you know they have different customs there. They have different language there. They have different, you see where I'm going with this?
Totally.
I think the same thing is happening right in our own backyard. And yet we're not always willing to put the work into those relationships. We hang with people that think like us, talk like us, vote like us, when we really need to get to know those people from other generations. So the book is really about making this a competitive advantage in whatever mission you've chosen to do. Let's harness all 4 or 5 generations that we got here. So
that's so great.
A big idea.
So what would you say might be the biggest vulnerability for someone who's watching or listening that is a senior leader trying to diversify generationally? What's their greatest vulnerability?
Well, I have found, for me, I'm over 40 years in my career, and I'm probably like a lot of other people that have been around for a while. It's chronocentrism. So that's just a big sociological term that says I tend to get stuck in the chronology of my own life.
Right.
I think like all people my age, but I don't see these, have we heard this? Kids today, It's so funny, Mike. People have been saying, quote unquote, kids today since Socrates.
Right.
Socrates wrote about how kids in his day were disrespectful to parents. And I'm going, was this written last week? So it's always been around. And I think our vulnerability as seasoned veterans is to begin to get stuck, if I can use that term. I know that's probably oversimplifying it, in thinking that we've got the handle on things and these young whippersnappers don't. So can I tell you a quick story that illustrates this vividly? So early in the book, I talk about Tony. Tony was going to Ohio University, and he worked at a paint store, a retail brand, paint store, major brand. And he started a TikTok account where he taped himself mixing paint colors and really cool stuff. He was doing really vivid imagination. Well, he went viral. He got 1.4 million people following him on TikTok as he mixed paint colors and so forth. So he thought naturally, wow, we could monetize this. This could be used for marketing. There's another 1.5 million people that we're probably not reaching.
Right.
This paint store. So he puts a slide deck together and offers to show it to the executives and the management and so forth. Bless his heart, Tony did not get one person interested in hearing from him. Didn't get one set of eyeballs looking at a slide deck. Tony did get something he didn't expect. He got fired.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. They thought surely he's doing this on company time, and he's probably, distracting the customers. He's probably stealing the paint. You know how we always assume the worst with somebody that's 30 years younger. Well, Tony moved to Florida, now has 2 million people following him, and he's got his own paint store.
Wow.
So minimally, I'm thinking here were some seasoned veterans that could have capitalized on something, and they completely missed it because they were vulnerable to their own mindset.
The gap was just too wide generationally, and there was just no bridge to cross coming across both generations.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I was 19 when I got married. I was 24 when we moved to start the church that we still lead now, and I'm 35 now. So we've been here for about 11 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm 35. I'm on the younger side of the generational spectrum, the age spectrum.
Yes.
What would someone like me need to consider when hiring another employee or looking to expand, so that I don't all hire just young guys? What about the young team members? How can we do better at kind of bridging that same gap?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that probably deserves an hour and a half of an answer. I'll try to do it in a couple of minutes. I think, first of all, I need to welcome differences. I know that sounds so cliche, but if I'm not conscious about my decision, I'll hire people just like me, So I think you want to look for older and younger. Now, just like we look for different strengths in our staff, right, and different skill sets, of course, that's for sure. But on our team, we're not a big team at Growing Leaders. We have 24 people full-time and then some part-time. But we have 4 generations working here.
Wow.
And I love it when we have a project to do and I put a Generation Z person, a millennial guy, gal, whatever, a Gen Xer and a boomer all on this team, because I know they're going to know how to market this product or this resource way better to their own demographic than I would. I can guess what a 22-year-old thinks like, because I was 22 back in the day. But even now, a 22-year-old thinks differently than what we did, back in 1982 or whatever.
Sure.
So I don't know if that's a great answer, but I think we need to look for those differences, just like we know ethnic diversity actually helps a team. In fact, here's what the data shows. Diversity actually helps a team produce more, get more results, better ideas, but it's harder work because there's a little bit more conflict and friction. We're not all thinking alike. But that's really what I'm lobbying for. Is in this book, it's an encyclopedia on understanding the generations. And then the back third of the book, I'm saying, here's some ideas on leading, managing, hiring to really bring that diversity to play.
Now, I have a 50-plus-year-old CFO, so he's almost twice my senior. Yeah. And it's very interesting because I actually feel like he's a gift. We actually work out every morning. And we call him the staff dad.
I love it.
We all want to be like him when we grow up. He wears the same New Balances that he mowed the lawn with on Saturday. He's like the dad,
Yes.
Do you find that organizations that are led by younger leaders struggle to hire in age diversity above them? Or is that something that you don't see as a struggle?
No, I do see it as a struggle. Not everywhere, but in many places. And here's why we do. The millennial generation, your generation, Mike, is now the largest in the workforce. Mm-hmm. So many of you in your 30s are now leading older people. And it does feel awkward at times. Oh my gosh, this guy could be my dad. This woman could be my mother. Right. And you want to be humble, but yet you got to have confidence. So there's a paradox you have to balance. I need to be confident and humble. I think older people deeply love being led by younger when they show humility. When you defer to that 50-year-old guy and say, listen, you could probably teach me so much here. Totally. But I'll tell you about being an older person, Mike. On any given day, any one of my colleagues could say to me, I don't know how you can be so wise and so clueless at the same time. That is, because I don't understand TikTok. I don't know, whatever. I don't know. But I have fun with the 4 generations. And every week I meet with Andrew, who's 32. I'm 62. I learn from him every time. Right. But I have to swallow my ego. I have to assume a teachable posture. Right. And we learn, he and I both walk out laughing, going, we both learned something today. And I love him like a son. So if we can achieve that, oh my gosh, what could we pull off in our individual missions?
Hey, this next segment is brought to you by Compassion International. You already know that you can connect your church with the life-changing ministry of compassion. All you have to do is go to compassion.com/Mike. That's compassion.com/Mike. Can we talk a little bit about succession when it comes to generational diversity? Because in my line of work as a pastor, what I've noticed, and this might not apply universally, but the senior pastors in the churches tend to stay for a certain period longer. And what it does is it creates a disenfranchised associate or executive pastor or up-and-coming youth pastor because they thought that maybe the baton would have been passed 5 years prior, 10 years prior. And then what happens is it ages the church. Many of my listeners might understand what I'm talking about, but how would you recommend or take me to a place where you've maybe coached a senior leader who maybe has outstayed their welcome and they want to transition and they were trying to transition well, but it's already too late? How do you speak into organizations like that?
Excuse me.
No, you're fine.
It's a brilliant question. And just to encourage you, Mike, we see this in many industries all over the world. It's my generation that just either I'm afraid you won't do it right, so I can't pass it on yet, or I'm afraid of being irrelevant and a dinosaur, but we stick around too long. And I'm even watching myself now. I'm passing it on to these Joshuas out there.
Right.
Andrew's one of my Joshuas, and I'm clearly Moses. There's no
Right.
doubt about. I mean, I'm the old guy, you know. But let me share some good news that might be encouraging for your listeners. There was a British psychologist by the name of Cattell way back in 1971, 50 years ago, who revealed some research that is brilliant, but my generation needs to pay attention to it. He said, over the span of your life, you experience two major kinds of intelligence: fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. Fluid intelligence you enjoy mostly the first 40 years of your life. So you'd be in this.
Right.
You're adapting, you're creating, you're innovative. It's all the things we think of young people. Okay.
Sure.
At 35, you're still there. Okay.
Sure.
As you migrate toward 40, it's not that that goes away, but more you're going to be experiencing crystallized intelligence. So if fluid intelligence, the first 40 years, adapts, innovates, crystallized intelligence summarizes and clarifies. You become this master mentor.
Wow.
Or if not master mentor, at least a mentor.
Sure.
And I think my generation needs to say, I'm not the innovator. It's not that I can't, but I need to embrace who I am. Don't try to be forever 21. That's stupid.
Right.
Embrace where God has me, and then pass on. Like you're 50-year-old. What's his name at your place?
His name is Chris.
Chris is relishing being the dad there, I bet.
Right.
And, he probably loves being the old guy. And, oh, my gosh, I'm such a, but he's passing on wisdom.
Yes.
He's passing on experience,
yes.
stories, coaching. So if we'll transition to that role and not be the front and center, but saying, Mike, you're the guy that's coming up. And by the way, in 15, 20 years, you're going to be passing this on.
Right.
Boy, having that big picture just makes any organization better. But if I can speak to faith, the body of Christ becomes better. Because we're playing the Moses and Joshua role that we ought to be playing.
Absolutely. I guess it takes a high level of trust between senior leaders and the next generation or the four generations. Trust is a huge factor when it comes to my dad or my grandfather or my son. There's four generations alive right now in the Santiago household. So trust is a huge thing. How have you fostered trust there at your organization, and how can an organization who's maybe struggling fostering trust, how can they build trust between the generations?
It's a great question. One of the assignments I've given myself as the founder and CEO of Growing Leaders is when I'm in a meeting, I want to speak as if I believe I'm right, but I want to listen as if I believe I'm wrong.
That's very good.
It's a game changer. When my young team members see me as the founder and author and blah, 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 just listening to them, I'm getting choked up even thinking about it, because I'm thinking they're probably not feeling listened to oftentimes because we got the systems in place already, blah, blah, blah. But when I'm listening going, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. I just feel like it changes everything. So with my own two adult children, my daughter Bethany's 34, so close to your age, and my son Jonathan's 30. When I listen to them as if I believe I could be wrong, oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll just stop there. But I feel like that's an assignment that's been a game changer for me. I feel like all generations probably ought to look at life that way, because we're all ignorant, just in different subjects, so I'm clueless and wise both at the same time. I don't know if that's a great answer to your question, but I feel like that's what comes to my mind. Yeah.
Can you repeat that one more time? You said when you speak, you want to speak as though you know it, right?
Yeah.
And then you want to listen.
If I believe I'm right.
As you believe you're right.
Yeah. And the reason I think that's important, I think as a leader, my people need to see some confidence. If they don't see a confident leader, they're going, are we going to get to our goal or not?
Right.
So speak as if you believe you're right. But when you listen, it's not just waiting for your turn to talk next. It's, I'm going to listen as if I believe I do not know. I'm thinking about one example recently where a 20-something on our team, we both cried at the lunch table. And it was because I needed to listen, and he had something to share. And I did not see it at first. And when I finally remembered my self-assigned assignment, it was a game changer. Yeah.
What a beautiful revelation for any leader listening or watching today. I think we could all, no matter what our age is, take from that and really run with it. As we kind of near the end of our time, I try to do some like lightning round stuff so that people can get to know you a little bit better. So tell me, what's the go-to drink of choice in the morning? Is it coffee? Is it tea? And if so, what kind of coffee?
Okay. I'm a social coffee drinker, so I do drink coffee when my wife makes it or I'm out at Starbucks. I just love coffee with either coconut cream or French vanilla cream. I love yeah. And, some people would say you had a little coffee with your cream, that sort of thing.
Right,
So
right,
that's
right.
my early morning drink, and that probably will be forever. I love that.
That's awesome. What's been your favorite place in the world to visit or to vacation at?
Ooh, great question. I love visiting Singapore. I've been there probably 7 times, and it's just such a neatly kept, precise and prestigious place. I don't know if you've ever been there, Mike, but it's just beautiful. And back in the 1960s, when they became their own nation again, the president took the best of Germany, U.S., France, and he just put it all together. It's like best practices that he put together in that country. So I love visiting there all the time. It's fun.
That's awesome. One more in the lightning round. What are you most excited about this year as it pertains to growing leaders and your organization?
Wow. 2 things come to mind. One, the bigger concept is we are right now in the midst of a merge with Maxwell Leadership.
Wow.
So most of your listeners probably have heard of John Maxwell.
Who's that? Who's John Maxwell? Never heard of him before.
Yeah. So John,
has he written a
John
book? Has he written a book before? Has John written a book before? Because I don't know if I've ever
written one. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's been upwards of 100 books. It's crazy. It's ridiculous.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think he writes them faster than most people read them.
That's amazing.
Anyway, I worked for John for 20 years, 80s and 90s, and up to 2003. Started growing leaders in 2003, really focusing on the next generation of leaders. But John recently approached me. We've remained friends and said, "What do you think about a merger? We think you could be our next gen people, experts." And we've never pretended to be that. So that merge is just a really exciting idea, and we'll realize it over the next several months as we merge boards and have content for all people. So that would be the big idea. But I'm really excited about this new book, A New Kind of Diversity. I feel like it could be a game changer for teams who just find there's a little bit of friction here, and we're not quite sure why. But maybe it's just we just think differently, and we could really make this our advantage.
That's great. And if people want to connect with you online, is there a special place that they can go to read more or to find out more about the book and to purchase it?
Yeah, I would recommend to get the book, just go to newdiversitybook.com, newdiversitybook.com. And here's what I would say. There's a lot of bonus stuff if you order it now. But the most fun thing that's free is we have an assessment. We call it, get this now, we call it the GQ. It's your generational quotient. Oh yeah, I know, we're pretty cheesy here.
That's awesome.
But you take 41 questions and you see how fluent you are with Gen Z, with millennials, with Gen Xers, with boomers. And we kind of say, ooh, you might need to work on your Gen Z connections. And then we give a little bit of a guide to do that better. So at newdiversitybook.com, you can take the assessment. And then if you want to get the book, you sure can. But thanks for asking. Yeah.
Oh, no problem. Well, Tim, we're really grateful for you. We are believing the best for you and your future in this new book. Again, those watching and listening, you can go to newdiversitybook.com and you can pre-order a copy, take the assessment, all the resources, everything is available there. Tim, thank you again for your time. Thanks for being on the show today.
It's been so fun for me, Mike. Thanks for having me.
No problem. God bless. All right, did you love today's episode? You can really help us out by subscribing, giving us a 5-star review, nothing less, smashing the like button, commenting, and subscribing on our YouTube channel. The Mike Santiago Show is produced by John Michael Sherman and Rocket.Media, LLC. To find and follow Mike, all you have to do is go to the MikeSantiagoShow.com. That's the MikeSantiagoShow.com right now. We'll see you next week.